because oh my God, like I mean, there's been things you guys have been saying. I'm just like,
Dude,
which
next time I pick up cymbals, I'm gonna look at the grooves. Like,
I'd be like, yo, this groove is
oh my
off
God.
by like 0.6.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Flip Up Podcast. Today we are joined with two very special guests. Got some more friends from the West Coast. We have Albert Avelar and Savannah Moau.
Yeah, and thanks again, guys, for supporting us. We say this every time, but really, it's absolutely insane all the support we're getting. We've been getting people reaching out to us just saying how much they love these episodes. Like, thank you guys once again so much for the support. And also, going along with that, like, if you guys know people, like we've been saying this before, if you guys know people who would like to be on this podcast, like, please have them reach out to us. We'd love to have them on. Like, especially for us, since we barely know much about West Coast, like, it's awesome having West Coast people on, you know? So once again, yeah, Savannah and Albert. Savannah, if you want to go ahead and tell your story.
Sure. My name is Savannah. I started marching, actually, I was a wind player for 6 years, something like that. And then my sophomore year of high school, I switched over to cymbals. My junior year. I marched 2 years at Chino Hills. Then I marched at Moau in 2016 and Pulse 17, 18, and 19.
Hey guys, my name's Albert, obviously. I started off playing quads actually in high school at a Rancho High School in Pico Rivera. And then took a year off, didn't do anything. I was in college. And then my sophomore year of college is when I went audition at POW, at POW Percussion, did POW 2015, 2016, Pulse 2017, 2018, and then did drum corps, did 2 seasons of drum corps at Impulse in 2016 and Vanguard Cadets in 2017.
Dang.
And so that's my marching experience.
You guys have quite the resume, I will say. So you guys may be wondering why we have 2 guests. Well, also, we didn't even say this earlier. This is our first time having 2 guests on, which is absolutely awesome.
Yo.
But the reason why we did this is they both have basically the same marching experience, if I'm not wrong. But also, with that same marching experience, they also kind of been around the same culture, you know, like same experiences. So we felt that this would be right to have both of them on. And it just made sense, you know. So yeah, let's go ahead and actually, I want to talk about your guys' experience at Pulse. Specifically, we're going to talk about 2017, which is a show I really loved in high school. Like, it's kind of crazy to think like you guys were still marching and like, oh my God, I was like me and Lucas
You're
were
both seniors. I remember watching that
Okay.
show in Dayton. It was iconic. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I just kind of want to like talk about like Pulse has always had this like, I don't want to say like stigma, but there's always been this culture that's been developing. I don't know when it dates back, but I'm curious to know kind of where this like East Coast and West Coast blend, because like I want to say like I've seen videos of like maybe 2016, I don't know, but like shows before where like there was like offhand going on, you know, which is something that like I never really see on the West Coast
Some
side.
tosses in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I don't know what show that is, but like just like the offhand culture, which is something I rarely see. But then I also want to talk about like the performance in 2017 was absolutely insane. Like I feel like a lot of people get this idea that like when you're on the West Coast, you have to like perform this certain like way. So I'm just kind of curious, like, just we'll start off first with like what that like West Coast and East Coast blend is like.
Savannah, you want to go first?
No, you go first.
All right. So like the West Coast, East Coast blend, I think sort of what you may be talking about is pretty much like the like offhand. I started at Pulse, I believe in 2012. I believe that's when it started. Yeah, because 2011 they're still doing on hand. So started in 2012, and pretty much that blend I believe that you might be talking about is like sound quality and offhand, right? Blending those 2 concepts together, right? The East Coast meeting the West Coast. And so that started in 2016. started in 2016 with one of the instructors from PAL started teaching at Pulse, and that was Derek Wu. He started bringing sound quality over to Pulse in 2016, and so that's where it really started, incorporating those two concepts together. And honestly, during that time, if you knew that was happening there, it was such a big deal, because it was like, I remember our friend Julian Rojas, he brought it up to me, I think during like a rehearsal one time, I think, or a show, I don't remember. He just said, he's like, man, he's like, look at him, like they finally, like Pulse has like the whole package. They have the visual package and they have the sound quality. You could hear them, you could hear playing, and they sound good. And it was a big deal at the time. And so it was really cool to sort of be in the organization during that time and witness that.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, because I feel like also, and maybe this might be the stigma we believe, but I mean, also when we had Jack on as a guest, he kind of talked about like this idea that sound quality is definitely more favored. Did you guys like ever disapprove of doing visuals, or did you guys get like any backlash?
I believe the only time we would get backlash is if a visual made some sound that we're playing sound like poop. If it made it sound really bad, if like the crash was just like a full-on pop and nothing else, or you couldn't hear a tap trick or something, it was just like, yeah, no, we're taking that out. Like, you can save it, put it somewhere else in the show, but we are not sacrificing sound quality for a visual. So that was the only time, I would say. Yeah.
Like poop. She said like poop.
Yeah.
Visual, guys. You don't want to have the poop visual in there. I mean, I think we've all been there with the that one visual that you think is really cool, but then it leads into a crash and it just like doesn't work, but you're really trying to force it to work. But
yeah. Sometimes it's just not meant to be.
Yeah. Do you guys ever feel like you put more focus into visual or sound, or was it just like all the time you're thinking about both? Was there ever a time where you're like, oh man, I just want to like work on visuals right now rather than playing a sizz for an entire block?
Honestly, when I listened to your guys' podcast with Jack, I was listening to that, and he was talking about having like blocks of just sound quality, breaking something down for an entire block. And we did do that at Pulse also. But I feel like at Pulse we did kind of we split it up evenly, I would say. We did have a lot of blocks where we just played crashes for forever, or sizzes for forever, and whatever it was. But we did have some blocks where it's just like, okay, we got to fill in this part in the show with visuals. So we're just going to take the next block and just fill it up. And then that's just how it went from there on out. And then we just kind of evenly just split it up like that. It wasn't, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we talked about in a previous episode, like just kind of talking about the differences, not trying to reiterate, but like that's the one thing I'd say about like the East Coast is like we definitely spend a lot more time on the visual aspects. And the way we kind of put it was like, you're going to visually see things more clear than sound quality, but like in a WGI setting, you know, because with DCI, like the stadium's bigger, you know, so kind of we've been talking about these like philosophies about what do you favor more, and just kind of like that's like the differentiation between like East Coast and West Coast is these like philosophies. But that's the thing that I just admire about the culture with Pulse is that these two philosophies are now being favored together. You know what I'm saying? So
best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, that's I really love being a part of the in Pulse 2017 when we were incorporating that. That was like, for me back in high school, that was like the dream group to be a part of. I remember watching Pulse 2010, and obviously back then I wasn't a cymbal player, but still I was mesmerized at watching their show and watching their performance. When I just really want to be a part of the group, and so finally being a part of the group in 2017 and being a part of those two blends, right? Those two concepts of sound quality and offhand, it was a great time. And we didn't at the time we didn't even question offhand, because that's sort of just the culture we we're brought up in. It's like if you're going to be in pulse, you're going to be in power, you're going to do offhand. It's just a thing. And so we fell in love with it, and also it was a great show. I don't think I've ever had one person tell me that Pulse 27. Yeah, the show sucked. No, like it's such a great show. You could watch anybody in that show. You watch the Vision ensemble, the battery members, the what's it called? The pit, and especially like sort of the family in that show. So like it was a great time.
I gotta ask though, we asked the same question. Honestly, I think this is gonna be a thing we're gonna ask every West Coast person, but the concept of like juggling, I'm sure you guys kind of know briefly what juggling is, but like kind of what are you guys' thoughts on juggling? Because we have like tosses where the cymbal's completely off the hand and then you just grab it, and then you got offhand where the strap is still in contact, but then juggling is like this idea where the hand's still in contact, but it's like not touching the strap at all. So I'm kind of curious on like, what are your guys' thoughts on like visuals like that?
It stresses me out. I'm not gonna lie, but that's because I don't do it. I don't do it. I know I've done like 2 tosses in shows my entire like marching career. One was in 2015, my high school senior year. We were tossing from one person to the other, and like I hated it, but it was part of the show, so I was just like, okay, fine. That scared me every single time. And then in 2016 for POW, we did one small like toss in the show, but that's it. That's like the most I'll ever do, because the idea of a cymbal hitting the floor, it's just like, it breaks my heart.
It's soul wrenching.
Yeah, that's
edge on right when it like bends.
No.
Yeah, no, that's actually that.
Sorry,
I was gonna say
sorry,
that's really funny that you kind of bring up like the cymbal falling, because like when the cymbal falls for us, it's kind of like we're just cleaning it, so like anytime the cymbal falls, it just kind of blows over our head,
Yeah, we are a little desensitized to it, but we also do have like really, really thin cymbals. It's not like the super thick orchestral, like the beautiful cymbals.
Yeah,
beautiful cymbals.
More beautiful than these. You should see ours, little potato chips.
I have a question. Do you, because you said obviously, do you polish the insides of your cymbals, by the way, when you guys are marching?
We Windex. So like I feel like I haven't polished since high school. I don't know why.
Yeah.
We don't polish. We usually just Windex to get all the dirt and finger stuff off.
I know why we don't polish. It's because we get new cymbals. Like for DCI, like I was saying this before, like at Colts, like we would get like 3 pairs or something like that. So we had a rehearsal pair, let God knows whatever happens to them, and then you got a show pair, and then you got a finals pair. So I think just knowing you have pairs to fall back on. And then for WGI, what was it at Mason? We had like a rehearsal pair, and then we just had a show pair, something like that. So
that's what we're used to as well. Just having a practice pair and a show pair, not 3 pairs. That's cool.
A lot. I wouldn't even know what to do with them. That's so many.
Let's keep one at home. I'm down. Why not?
Yeah. I'm actually curious though, because I see a lot more West Coast lines have Zildjians than Sabians. Like, what do you guys prefer?
I grew up playing Zildjians like all my years. I've picked up Sabians probably for one weekend because they put me on 18s, and those are the only 18s that we had. So I was just holding them. They're heavy, and I was just like, what? I feel like I'm playing on trash can lids. Like, they're just so thick. But I prefer Zildjians just because that's what I've always played on.
Very, very similar to me as well. As soon as I started, it's just been playing on in fact, like the same Zildjian classic orchestras. Mm-hmm. All I've ever been playing on. I think the only time I played on something different was when I was at the 2016 Academy auditions. I was playing symphonic Viennese. They're 20-inch. I remember looking at the grooves. They're actually bigger, further apart from each other than classic orchestrals. And also they were heavies. It was the first time I picked up a pair of 20s, was at the 2016 Academy auditions. And I fell in love with it. I was like, man, they're super heavy. But like, just, I love the I guess like the roar of the sound once you crash those cymbals together. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting because like for at least for me, Viennese are some of my favorite cymbals. Just like, I don't know, the sound quality plus also the visual approach, like they just kind of work well, at least for me personally, and just also like the weight distribution. Just also talking from a visual aspect, but I don't know
So
about you, Lucas.
you also marched. Have you marched different pairs of cymbals then, Zildjian and Sabians?
Yeah, so well, at least for me, I've marched Zildjian basically everywhere. The only time I've marched Sabians were at Colts in 2019, which is why I can actually like say like what I would prefer. Like I have a pair for Zildjian, which would be medium thins, just because they're really light. But like also the Viennese are awesome. And then when it comes to Sabians, like only the Viennese. So that's why I just say Viennese in general are just the best pair in my personal opinion.
I see. Well, but I remember. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I remember you also asked a question earlier of it was, man, I totally forgot what that question was. Edit that out.
Well, okay, so real quick, Lucas.
It came and went.
Lucas, real quick though, what's your favorite pair of cymbals?
Okay, so I think I've used the same pairs of that you have, except I didn't march a whole season with the Sabian Viennese. I just auditioned on them. But I would have to say, I mean, the medium thins are real nice because they're super light. You don't get tired. You can like throw them around so easily. But the weight of the Viennese, I think once you get used to the weight, because like after a day of like that transition, it kind of feels like you get used to it. But I think having the weight while doing some of like the offhand stuff, the way it moves and the way you can kind of feel more tension on your wrist, I do like that. And then sound quality wise, I would have to say Viennese just because the medium thins are like,
They sound like
there's like paper. Yo, in our 19 show, we put stickers on them just because the show was like fringe. So it's supposed to be like all like urban and whatever. So we had stickers. And yo, it like dampened the sound, and they sounded just straight up like, I don't even know. They didn't even sound like cymbals at that
point.
point.
No, I know exactly
like muted
how to
all the
explain
time.
it. So you got the crash, and it's like the crash is like it just faded away so fast.
And then of course the directors were like, "Oh, we love it. It fits perfectly with the show."
You know what's funny is hearing you guys talk about this stuff. I totally cannot relate. Like I really can't. Like I'm trying to like just like imagine like like just going back to like our experiences, and like I can't imagine playing on a pair of cymbals and it sounding like paper, pretty much.
Feeling like paper, you mean?
Or, I'm sorry, feeling like paper. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is why we love having West Coast people on, because honestly, like now I'm starting to understand more cultural things, and also like, because oh my god, like I mean, there's been things you guys have been saying. I'm just like, you know,
Dude, next time I pick up cymbals, I'm gonna look at the grooves. Like,
I'll be like, yo, this groove is off by like 0.6.
That's the kind of thing that I feel like we don't notice as much. But for you, that's like you pick up on these things because you're like, oh, this is gonna sound awesome when I play it because these are spaced out differently, or like I don't know, maybe they hammered the cymbal differently.
Yeah, I think I remember in my very first year of at PAL 2015, we got our show pair, at least what was supposed to be our show pair. And again, I'm new to everything. I've never played cymbals in my life before the PAL 2015 season, and so I'm kind of just being introduced to everything. So when we got our show pair, what was supposed to be our show pair, the members, they looked at us like they looked at the grooves. They're like, these look way different than our practice pair at the time. And like the practice pair, the grooves in between each other were very small, very tight spaces. And then for a show pair that we got, the new cymbals, they were much spread out. And then once we actually started playing on them, it didn't sound the same. They're the same cymbals, right? The practice pair and the show pair, but they sounded completely different from each other. And we pretty much us as the members, decided like, okay, never mind. Let's make that our show pair, the practice pair, and our practice pair, the show pair. So we just polished the heck out of out of the practice pairs. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is absolutely wild. Which also, I gotta say, because my practice pair, I use these like stadiums. Because when I was getting into like Mason and stuff like that, I was just like, oh, I'm used to these cymbals, so I got them in size 18. But oh my God, like I look back now, I'm like, why did I get these cymbals? Because now that we're talking about grooves, there are like no grooves on these cymbals. Like,
oh yeah.
Hold on a sec, I'm gonna go get them.
Audio listeners aren't gonna get to see this.
Whoa.
Yeah, but the stadiums are like the high school classic. I feel like at least over here, every single high school always has just a pair of like 90-year-old stadiums just sitting there.
Yeah, I just realized they're in my car, so I'll have to show them another time. Maybe what I'll do is just like make an Instagram clip of this, Lucas, or something.
All right.
Yes.
With these
you examining the
stadiums,
grooves.
they last forever. Like did you have stadiums at South County, Jaden?
Yeah, so we use, oh my God, were they stadiums? I think they were stadiums, but oh my God, so my freshman year, like, the rack and stuff like that, my pair of cymbals were take them off the rack and there you go,
Nice.
to where we're at now. But I think, yeah, we were using like stadiums, but like, oh my God, like I'm now just thinking about stadiums in general. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on like the grooves with it?
With stadiums?
Yeah, because now that I'm thinking about like when I'm thinking about my high school pair plus the pair that I have right now, I've noticed that like the grooves sort of like smooth out easier.
I've actually never played on stadiums at all, like ever. I've only ever played on Zildjian classic orchestras, so I can't even tell you. Plus, I'm blind, so I won't be able to help you out there.
Yeah, well, at least I have Lucas's word on the grooves, so.
That's true. I will say, I think, okay, so pretty much if you go to any like high school or college marching band, you're going to see stadiums. And I think it's because like directors that don't know anything about cymbals, they go on Zildjian's website and they see stadiums. And they're the only cymbals on there that say marching cymbals.
Yeah, that is actually a great point. Like when I went to Zildjian, I was just like, yeah, like I don't know what Viennese are. Like they sound like something you put on a drum set. I don't know. But then like I'm just like, whoa, marching? Like yeah, it's because it says marching. Like I didn't even think about that till now.
So every director goes out and buys stadiums, and I think everyone I've talked to has said that they don't like stadiums.
Okay, so I guess last topic, just kind of talking about like cymbals in general. For those of you who are in high school who are watching or maybe thinking about getting a pair of cymbals for your high school or your ensemble, I guess from a West Coast standpoint, what would you guys recommend?
So, Savannah, you want to take this one?
I mean, my entire life I've only used classic orchestrals, so my go-to answer would be Zildjian's classic orchestrals. That's the only one I've ever used.
Well, if we're really trying to like really think about like what kind of cymbals would you get, right? Like I guess throughout the years what we've been taught, the type of cymbals that you want to have, and the reason why the lines are picky with what kinds of cymbals that they want, they're going to choose, is sort of like losing my words here. I'm sorry. We want the sound to cut through the battery. They want to be heard, and so through the years, our instructors have told us like we want bright sounds. We want bright sounds. When you play a tap choke, that has to cut. It has to be super bright and just super short. Crashes, just full sounding crashes. The sort of like roar and can extend past the battery through all the way up into the crowd. And so pretty much those are, if you're really looking for cymbals, is just to be heard. That's pretty much what it really comes down to. just to be heard. Big cymbals so that people could hear you.
Yeah, that's interesting because I guess like going off of this idea of philosophies, Lucas, what would you say for East Coast?
A lot of groups use the medium thins, not because they sound good, but because they're easy to throw around.
Exactly. If I was teaching high school, I'd easily recommend to the band director medium thins, because it's, they're light, easy for students to just pick up. And I even think just like breaking down technique, with like flips and stuff like that, like the basics, it's just way easier. But then we talk about sound quality. Yeah.
I
What's
feel
that
like
to talk about?
it might be
No,
easier to
honestly,
kind of
though.
learn the sounds with the medium thins just because they're like thinner and lighter, so you don't like struggle to like push
Hold it up.
through the cymbal with the crashes and getting like the contact points, but they don't sound as good as thicker cymbals.
Honestly, hearing all of us talk about this, it's really cool. We're from different places in the U.S., and so naturally that just comes like being brought up in like the performing arts culture, how different we do things. It's like sort of like it's the same thing but sort of different, and it's nice to have that variety. Not everyone's the same. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like art, like having that unique style is, what makes everyone, unique in their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I respect any cymbal playing, I mean, obviously, if you're just going to pick up cymbals and just be like, yeah, I'm going to crash with no thought, like, obviously that's a different standpoint, but, like putting the process into why you do certain things, like I have so much respect for that, no matter what kind of culture it is, even ones I may not even agree with, even on the East Coast standpoint, like there's some lines me and Lucas completely don't agree with, not pointing towards any direction, but just, like we grew up with a certain way, you guys grew up with a certain way. And like you got to just kind of respect it, so.
Yeah, honestly, it's respect groups, respect the craft.
Yep.
and everything, everybody.
Yeah.
You guys brought up something earlier, and I just remembered it now. You brought up the performance aspect in the Pulse 2017 show, and you also wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. That was actually what I was just about to talk about. I was literally
awesome.
like trying to segue into it. So awesome. Yeah. So honestly, I like before even talking about like what you guys had to kind of go through and like the experience or like, like mentally what you guys were doing to prepare. But like, what was it like performing that show? I feel like that was so fun. I would have loved to perform that show.
It was a blast, honestly. It was really for me, talking from my perspective, like it was very easy to perform that show just because with everybody there on the floor, like we were all so close. So we were kind of just having fun with it. And it never felt like forced just because everybody's energies were so similar and we were all matching each other. So it was just a fun time, honestly. If I could go back and like relive a season, it would probably be that one, just because I had a blast. It was my first year doing polls. I was on a great line with so many people that I marched with at POW, and so it was just like carrying the family over and doing it all over again.
Mm-hmm. Now, honestly, yeah, I had a great time. Taking that pretty much the POW 2016 cymbal line. I think four of us went and joined our friend Vince over at Pulse, and so there was 5 of us. And Savannah's totally right though. Like the whole ensemble was just in tune with what we knew what we had to do when performing this show. Every year, John Mapes and Ian Grom do this. They kind of present the show to you. At the beginning of the season, like this is the show, and it's like a big thing, big deal. It's like after a Sunday rehearsal, and we all come into the room's all dark. Everybody's like, oh, I wonder what the show is going to be. It's like this big old presentation. And then they just lay it out, all of it, just lay it out there on everybody.
Costume ideas and colors and floor ideas
everything,
and everything.
Yeah. And everybody loses their mind. It's such a great experience from beginning to the end, all from auditions all the way to Ohio. And man, it was, and so you get me started when once we were in Ohio, like I think most of the ensemble got sick.
Oh my God. I did hear about that. Do you remember that, Lucas? Like hearing about that?
I remember that. I think didn't another group get sick too?